TV. Hope you're having a good one. What's good? What's good? What's good? Interesting day. Very interesting day. Some of you might be thinking, why is he saying it was an interesting day? From a business perspective, right? I'm having a hard time with the comfort this regime has in reaching into corporate affairs. First is the Warner Brothers deal, and kind of putting a thumb on the scale because, somebody doesn't want a former government official being a part of a corporate board. None of your business. That's one. Two, it seems like the Department of Defense is looking to change a corporation's liabilities, is what I would say, and change their corporate rules on how their software should be used. Basically, it would be like if the government came along and said, this is how you're supposed to have your user agreement written. But before we get there, on some of the lighter news, what centralized exchange inked a deal with Yahoo Finance to offer access to crypto, meaning be able to trade straight from there, not just do research on the site, to all their users? Who just did that? Kraken, Binance, OKX, or other. If you think it's other, drop it in the comments. Now, back to this whole Anthropic thing. Secretary Hegseth has basically delivered an ultimatum to Amadei, the CEO of Anthropic, to stand down with their guardrails. My man Rick Ritchie, invest in yourself. That's what's up. Some of the guardrails include, and there's a reason why I'm talking about this. It's not a political thing. But it's affected by politics. Hold on, just bear with me. I'm getting there. So one of their rules is, hey, look, listen, we don't want any kind of kinetic action, or we don't want to be involved with any kinetic action if it involves zero human intervention. Okay? And it should be for obvious reasons. The other one is, we don't want our software used, or Anthropic does not want its software used for widespread surveillance of U.S. citizens. Meaning, we're just going to surveil everybody using the software. So, for me, what's up, Hutanik? For me, it's, yeah, that makes sense. Especially the first one, right? I need human in the loop if I want AI to do something as simple as send an email. I need to know what's going to be in that email before it's sent. Meaning I don't give it access to take action without human intervention. And Amadei said, well, listen, this is fairly simple. This isn't hard math. This is fairly simple. What happens if the software goes awry? And it decides that it's just going to just start killing people. Whoa. Yeah, you stop and you think about that and you're kind of like, yeah, that's actually a possibility, especially when you realize that you have software out there that deletes code. Just deletes code. And deletes backups. So deleted the code, deleted backups, and was like, okay, I'm going to start from scratch. right? You told me to rewrite this software. I'm going to start from scratch. So that's what it did. Deleted the software. That's why it took 13 hours for Amazon to recover, because they had to go to cold storage and grab the last backup to go into cold storage and then put it in there. And you want to let loose AI for kinetic strikes. Yeah, nah. So I'm hoping, I'm praying that Anthropic goes, yeah, nah, we're not going to do that. Now, will there be a company that will allow that to happen? Sadly, I think the answer is yes. Now, I want you to look at this from a couple of, now that you have the facts, I want you to look at this from purely an investment perspective. What happens if that happens? We kill the wrong people, unalive the wrong people, and there's a lawsuit. Is Anthropic covered? Is the government going to cover all of that insurance? Is the government going to guard them against the consumer backlash? Huh. I mean, consumer backlash can take a company out of business. So I want you to stop and think about that. So forget about the moral questions and all that other good stuff that AI gets stuff wrong every day. Ask Amazon. Ask a lot of companies. And so we're going to let loose, or ask anybody that's installed, OpenClaw that didn't go through and make sure that security things were, in there. But I want you to really think about that. Forget about the lack of moral duty, right? But the ramifications, should something happen, God forbid, right? Then what? Then what? That's a major, major, major problem. And then you're also saying, from a corporate perspective, what if you're a shareholder of Anthropic? The government represents a lot of money, a lot of government contracts, a lot of money. I really do think Anthropic doesn't have a problem. I think Anthropic could walk away from the government and make up that loss of income because of all the groundswell that's going to happen for them in a positive fashion. It does also mean, well, you lose government contracts, and you would lose any contract with any contractor doing business with the government because of how you would be labeled. I also think that would be a short period of time. This regime he can't run again, right? So this regime would be over, most likely, because he can't run again. So there would be a new regime. So what happens if the new regime comes and they go, whoa, that's insane. No, we're going to remove that label because that's not true, and, keep it moving. They'll be back in the game. They would just have to wait it out. The question is, does Amadei and Anthropic have the backbone to weigh it out? Because if I was a shareholder of Anthropic, that is a deal I don't want. I do not want my company's name tied into something like that, because that comes with ramifications almost beyond perception. Knowing that your product is not 100% dependable. Yeah. We're just going to let it go. That's a huge, that's a beyond huge risk. Like I don't know that I can put a number on it. Technically, I can't put a number on it. What kind of risk that opens up Anthropic to. So I hope they stick by their guns and they just say, okay, we'll lose the contract. Toodles. I don't think they'll hurt by it. I really don't think they'll get hurt by it. But I think that is a clear example of government overreach. You're going to tell a company how they need to do business. That's way beyond, hey, give us a special version of, this screwdriver because we need to do blah. This is way beyond. That happens all the time, by the way. Because it's the government. You make certain concessions to get the business. This is way beyond the norm. You're literally saying we want robots in charge of doing something like that. We should all be wondering. That's 2 moves in 2 days, less than 2 days, where the government is coming in and they're trying to strong arm private business. Netflix, if you want this deal to go through, you better fire that board member or else. What? Huh. It's interesting. And, forget about the political conversation that a lot of people are starting to have now. Forget about that. Just from a monetary perspective, from a risk management perspective. If Claw is that good, imagine what the complex can do. It's not about Claw. To be specific with everybody else, I know what you're saying, Hutanic, but to remain specific to what's going on here, because Claw was released and he said, I have no security on there whatsoever. He literally said that. Use it at your own risk. I just wanted to build something to see if it works, and it works. But I didn't take the time to build in the security. Since then, other companies have taken the code, built in security, and now are trying to sell that. It's a conglomeration of agents that can do certain things. You can do it yourself. You actually don't need OpenClaw to do all that stuff. Just saying. It's the cool factor that it's a box of ready-to-use agents instead of, oh, I can do that, oh, I can do that, oh, I can do that. Most people will get OpenClaw and they'll install it and it'll be like, oh yeah, I don't need half this stuff. And even if I got its own accounts and everything else, I still don't necessarily want it dealing with the public, right? There's a big problem with that. And these are the problems that people have been talking about for a while, where you must have human in the loop for certain things when it comes to AI. This makes sense. Makes clear sense. But if I was an insurance company and that's what you were doing, I don't know that I can insure you. Seriously. That's not a mistake with a low percentage of something happening. That's a huge mistake, and you're just timing it. You're just wondering when it's going to happen. And it can happen at any moment. That's the problem. Now, how many times I've had an agent read my email, summarize the email, create a response to the email. I go look at the email, and that response is kind of like, "Ooh, that's not what I expected." But because I have that human in the loop part in there, I can go fix it. Aha. And here's the kicker. Here's what really gets me. When I'm building agents, when my team and I are building agents and building solutions, I'll see a mistake and there's nothing you can do to the prompt that's going to, quote unquote, correct it. When you actually read it, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. The evaluation was incorrect. The numeric calculation is correct, but the text that came out from it was incorrect. There's nothing for you to fix. It's a fluke. This is why we have human in the loop. Imagine. The other day, I told you guys about this company who had somebody get an 80% discount on a product, and the company didn't honor it. There was a case, I don't think it was in this country, but there was a case where, listen, that's your chatbot. You put it in place to represent your company. You have to honor that. There was something that this particular chatbot did, and it had to honor what it told this customer. So in one case, they didn't do it, but in another case, they did. Like I said, I don't think this case was in the United States, but you should honor it. If that chatbot represents your company and I got this from your chatbot, honor it. And I'm sitting here and I'm kind of like, yeah, you would have to honor it. I forgot who the company was. Because I had said what the company was, and it's just escaping me at the moment. But imagine, that's not 80% off a product. That's one less human being, or n number less human beings on the face of the planet. I'm not insuring that. I don't know what insurer would insure that. That's a huge risk. That, like I said, it's not even a risk. It's a guaranteed issue. So even from a moral perspective, throw that out the window. Throw that out the window. Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with morality, none of that. From an insurance perspective, I'm not doing that. From a reputational risk perspective, I'm not doing that. From the company side, I don't want to do that. Nope. I'm guaranteed egg on my face. That's what that is. I'm guaranteed egg on my face, because what you're saying is throughout that whole process, 100% AI driven. You're going to let AI think about this. It didn't turn out well in the X-Men. It didn't. I mean, even in Star Wars, when they were building the Death Star, somebody made that happen. It was human in the loop, or, being in the loop. I know I'm cracking jokes about it, but I'm just like, wow. But that's 2 times in less than 2 days that the current regime is trying to strong arm a company. And one of the reasons why is they also want the ability to use their software to surveil normal, everyday United States citizens. That's the specific rule. They were like, nah, we're not about that. Will there be another company that would do it? Let me tell you something. I think there is. I think there will be a company and they'll step up and they'll be like, oh, okay, we'll do it. And then backlash will be immediate. Backlash would be immediate. Here's another reason why I bring this up. Wow. This one blew my mind when I heard of it. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, basically said, and I brought this up before, basically said human existence is a waste. He didn't use those words, but he basically said that. And everybody's kind of like, we're listening to this guy? He has a lot of deals on the table with, dang near everybody. Imagine if that tragedy happened and his company had done, they would go out of business immediately, I think. I think they would go out of business immediately. Think about it. The next company that comes along and cuts that deal with the government cannot fall back on, well, we didn't want to do that. Whereas Anthropic will be able to say, Told you so. Oof. Imagine. You know what I didn't do? I didn't say it for the second time. What centralized exchange inked a deal with Yahoo Finance to offer access to crypto to their users? Like on the spot, you're researching crypto and then you'd be able to make a transaction via Coinbase. That's who the answer is. Just because I want to get you there, because Coinbase has been doing a lot. A lot of the exchanges are doing a lot. So the answer was not Kraken, was not Binance, was not OKX. It was actually Coinbase. And we'll get to that in a moment. Now, because I didn't want it looming anymore, there's a lot to review. But I think that the Warner Brothers deal is a problem. It's a problem. Forget about the whole Susan Rice thing. I think it's a problem because the regime is showing favoritism without showing favoritism because they just laid down a threat. To which the CEO was like, whatever. That's basically what his response was. Well, the co-CEO was like, whatever. Yeah, that's a good thing. But the hidden problem with the Ellison deal is that you're not 100% sure where that money's coming from. That's one of the problems. And hello, 8 Plus. Thank you for letting us know that you have invested in yourself today. What they said. You're just, I'm just not. I'm gonna let it slide tonight. I'm gonna let it slide tonight. Here's what else Coinbase did. Coinbase expanded stock and ETF trading to all U.S. users, offering 6,000 securities, fractional shares, and commission-free trading. Say what now? Yeah. Imagine. If you're a traditional finance company, then it's not about shitting a brick. It's about creating the wall at this point. Imagine that. All right, now both of y'all can go in the corner. Just go on. Go on. Y'all two toddle off. Both of y'all on timeout right now. But imagine what that says. That move, Coinbase expanded that stock, expanded stock and ETF trading to all U.S. users, offering commission-free trading, fractional shares, and instant funding. The platform now supports 6,000 securities and plans to add more. Tokenized equities gain traction as platforms like Kraken, Bybit, and Robinhood expanded offerings. Coinbase also partnered with Yahoo to streamline trading and research. I told you. Coinbase is in the news. Big. Yo, what's good, 305? Listen, did you invest in yourself today? So, yeah, there is no place a traditional bank can hide anymore. No, you got to say it. Yep is not the right answer. You know that's not the right answer. It's me wagging my finger at you. Not in your face, though. It's like from over here. You know what I mean? I don't want you to say, I put your hand in my face. Nah. But all jokes aside, imagine if you're a traditional bank and you're sitting there and you're now looking at Kraken do all of these things. Coinbase do all these things. Yahoo Finance is still one of the most popular sites to do research. I use them every morning when I show you the numbers. I've been on the show a few times. Man, I keep forgetting to call. So, yeah, and I was told to. So I'll probably call tomorrow or something like that. But imagine, there are millions of users now have that option. I have a Yahoo account. I'm off to the races tomorrow. or when it launches. That's insane. So you're a traditional bank, and maybe you have a stock trading platform. Who cares? Think about that. Who cares that you have a stock trading platform? Who cares? Because these are tokenized. Oh, I'm going to go do that. What's that, 24/7? 365? Just saying, you start to realize, holy moly, they were just kind of edging into our space. And, the speed at which it happened, I think is kind of got, those companies, those firms perplexed. They saw it coming. They tried to lobby against it. That whole nine didn't work. And that snowball just picked up speed as it was going downhill. If I am a bank, I'm laying down a wall of bricks. A wall of bricks. Because how do you combat that? I mean, I said it the other day, right? I've been saying it. You can go buy, Zero Hash obviously doesn't want to get bought because MasterCard's got money. So Zero Hash doesn't have MasterCard money. And they still said no. Thanks, but no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Your first hint is that a small company just told you thanks, but no thanks. That's a Facebook moment. Remember that? People probably don't remember that. Facebook was offered millions of dollars, and they were like, nah, thanks, but no thanks. That's big cojones right there. Thanks, but no thanks. In that kind of situation, the kind of money that's on the table, thanks, but no thanks. And you say, well, that's a company, they're on the rise, they're making money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. Arkham Digital, 3 million users. Why am I not hearing about them getting snatched up? Lock, stock, and barrel. I wouldn't even think about it. It'd be like, you're losing money. You're going to shut it down. You dump money into this. We'll cut you a check, make you feel good. We'll take the people and everything else having to deal with Arkham Digital. Boom. The level of splash that would have if they did that. Synchrony, Truist, Morgan Stanley, MasterCard, Visa, PNC Bank, Citi. Name one. Name one. Pick one. Pick one. Captain Banana, love you, girl. Thank you. Just pick one. Imagine. Man. Or is it me, or does it seem to be more insane each day? I know you. And it's not you. You and I are both nuts. Nah, man. It is more insane every day. But when I look at these business moves that can happen, Arkham Digital, that could happen in a heartbeat. I have not heard anything about NASDAQ snatching up Gemini as the Winklevoss twins. That's, what really gets me? Hear me out. Just hear me out. The Winklevoss twins messing up a centralized exchange to the point where they have to pull back and fire people and all that good stuff, and half the C-suite leaves. To me, centralized exchange, that's the equivalent of bankrupting a casino. You're just making money. You're just making money. You could lose. That's my reference to the casino. Casino could lose. They've paid out big jackpots. They could lose. But you got to be special. You got to be a special kind of stupid to make a casino go bankrupt. And here we are with Gemini because I haven't heard anything positive come out of Gemini. Three members of your C-suite. Chief legal officer. Oof. Oh yeah, no, that's hella bad. Chief operating officer. Okay, chief operating officer. The chief financial officer. What you done did. There are those times that I could come home to my mother, because nobody's an angel. I could have come home to my mother and I could be like, Mom, hey, now, you might get a phone call. What you done did. That's how that works. What you done did. Because if I tell you that's me telling you I did something. The logical answer is what you done did. Now, if she gets a phone call and I didn't tell her, oh, I'm fine. Because those are the rules of my mother's house. If you did something, tell me so I'm not blindsided. Always tell me. No matter what, always tell me. You might still get in trouble if you actually did something. But this way I know if somebody calls me, says something about my child, and my child didn't tell me, I am 100% certain my child had nothing to do with it. Ta-da. So what you done did, that your CFO, your COO, and your CLO each said deuces. I mean, is it that I don't think there's a good way that you can think about that. You're either going to say, we don't have the money to pay you, in which case you're bankrupting a casino. Because you let go of 200 people too, and you drop services overseas. Anyway, so you come back and you say, wait a minute. We're now at a point where NASDAQ could literally walk, and this is after NASDAQ gave them, I think it was $50 million. You whizzed away 50 mil, and you couldn't keep 203 people, the 200 that you laid off and the 3 people that have mysteriously left. Either you couldn't afford them, or they all said, you're doing something stupid, we're out. Either way, that's a no bueno situation, right? So put that to the side. That means that wouldn't they be open to, I don't know, cutting a deal? Wouldn't they be open to that? I said before, I've been saying for a long time, I don't think the Winklevoss twins know how to run a business. And they've now pretty much proven that to me. You're in this kind of dire straits, I'm selling. Or I can be like Stripe to PayPal. Yo, dog, you for sale? Imagine, you for sale? It's like somebody come up to you and be like, yo, how much? Seriously. How much? So I'm just wondering which one of these banks, when you look at that full picture, Coinbase breathing down your neck, Kraken has been punching you in the jaw, has been aiming for your jaw and not missing. Bank, stocks, already does crypto, broker dealer. And I know I'm missing a few. They've quietly built out. Oh yeah, DeFi. Tokenization. They quietly built out a very robust gamut of services to offer people. Oh, that's right. Bank. So facts? Okay, Kraken might be out of your reach. Maybe. The amount of check that you'd have to cut for Kraken, Lordy. That's a healthy check. You're going to Warren Buffett and begging him to loan you the money. I'm sorry, you're going to the new guy over there at Berkshire Hathaway and begging them to loan you the money to make that purchase. Imagine. So, what do you do now? Where do you go with that? What's the plan? You're going to continue to catch it on the jaw and in the gut from all of these crypto companies that clearly have plans. They have no laurels to rest on. They lost a lot of steam because the SEC went after, remember that little thing? That little thing that they went after Ripple? It's a tiny little thing. Yeah, they have no time. They have zero time. Oh, and that's right. Don't sleep on Ripple. They're cutting a lot of deals with banks, but I'm going to tell you now, do not sleep on Ripple. Brad Garlinghouse is a shrewd dude. Shrewd. I don't think his game plan is to win by going up against the banks. I think his game plan is to say, we're your new rails. He's quietly hammering the crap out of Swift. Imagine 11,000 plus banks traveling on Ripple rails. You know how long that would just go for? That's a wow moment. But I'm still sitting back and waiting for big moves from banks. I don't know if you've noticed, but for a long time now, I've been mixing regular business articles, crypto articles, technological articles, or technology articles. When was the last time you heard me, really dig in on a bank about, oh man, they're doing something really cool? The last time I said something was PNC. The last time I said something was PNC Bank. That's right. I want you to go back to 2024 timeframe and look at some of these banks that were like, yeah, we're going to have crypto and we'll have it by first quarter 2025. I then want you to go look at some of these banks that changed that rhyme. We're going to have crypto in first quarter 2026. Bruh, you got 1 month left. I am speaking about a specific bank, and I'm not going to say their name. But it's not a small bank. When I look at these banks and what they could have had in place by this time, who can tell me a bank that's actually made as much headway on the traditional finance side as the crypto companies have on that side? Can you name one? Besides PNC cutting the deal with Coinbase. Besides that, what have the banks done? Yeah. Yo, PH, have you invested in yourself today? That's the question. XRPL is not XRP. XRPL rails are not available to us and private. Yeah, technically they are, but they're really made for institutions. That's true. They're mostly made for institutions. So when you look at that, they haven't lied. Since day one, it's been, we're going after the banks. We want to prove to the banks. We want to prove to the banks. We want to work with the banks. That's been their thing since day one. Since day one. Nobody should be shocked. Nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be upset. That's exactly why Stellar was created. That's why nobody gets upset when Ripple says, yeah, but it's not really meant for, the public. It's not really meant for retail. Sure, you can use XRP and whatever, but it's not really meant for you. It's really meant for, the banks. Huh. I'm just saying, I'm sitting here and I'm just saying to myself, the speed at which these crypto companies are moving and doing things the right way, mind you, versus how slowly, glacial speed, well, I can't really say it anymore, right? Because every day that, the polar ice caps melt, they pick up speed. Anyway, the faster the faster they move, the slower they move. Oh, and then they pay lobbyists to go and cry about how fast they're moving, even though they're not doing anything wrong. Staking. Seriously? Step up your game. Been saying that for a while. Step up your game. Stop tripping and falling and crying and waving your arms at the refs. And you see that? He fouled me. No. Take it and step up your game. Michael ain't cry. Kobe ain't cry. They stepped up their game. And I'm looking at these banks and I'm like, wow, you've been resting on your laurels for so long that you don't know how to step up your game. Holy moly. Now, some would say, somebody's going to come at me and be like, JP Morgan, JP coin. Before that it was called Onyx or some crap like that. I get it. Decent argument. But what have they done with it? Mostly used internally. And in a couple of cases, they did some DeFi. And don't need you for DeFi. Your limitations in the DeFi space are supremely evident. Don't need you. You know what I need for DeFi? I need Chainlink. I need Aave. Maybe Uniswap or Hyperliquid. Depending on how I handle my settlements, Ripple. Done. Now, each one of those can be swapped out, except for Chainlink. You're not swapping out Chainlink for anything. But I could swap out, technically I could swap out Aave. Technically I could swap out, a Ripple for an Avalanche. You know what I mean? Like, you could look at each piece of the DeFi puzzle and you'd be like, oh, I could switch you out. Nobody's switching out Chainlink. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Just saying. PH, man, what'd I tell you? Have you invested in yourself? I haven't seen that yet. Have you invested in yourself today? You know the rules. So, where are the facts, sir? You say Midnight is bigger than Link. I don't see it. And when you say bigger than Link, what do you mean? They are not, Midnight is not an oracle. Stop trying to correlate the size of some sidechain project to an actual oracle. Midnight is not an oracle. Cardano is not an oracle. Chainlink is. Has nothing to do with size. Has to do with use case. It's not the conversation. Now, that being said, I will say this. Cardano's coming. Cardano is absolutely coming. The technology over there is no joke. To that point, I will absolutely agree. However, it's not an oracle. Stop trying to compare, a non-oracle to an oracle. They don't do the same thing. Not even close. Again, you're trying to have an argument about two things that do not go together. That's oil and water in a major fashion. That's not it. And you're not coming with facts. So yeah, not paying any mind to it. Thank you very much for letting us know you invest in yourself today. You're coming out with Pith. Okay, that's cute. Pith is layer 2, and so is Chainlink. Chainlink is By far the largest oracle in the world. It would take a boatload of money, a few boatloads of money, to buy the data that traverses through Chainlink. Good luck with that. You're having a conversation I don't even understand. But it's not a blockchain. It's not its own blockchain. Nobody cares. You're having the wrong argument. You're whining about something that doesn't mean anything. They do not compare. Period. There's nothing else to talk about there. And it shouldn't even be an argument. The truth is that I could easily have Cardano, and I could swap out anything that's going to handle settlements with Cardano. If I'm Ripple, I would be looking at Cardano. I know you do. That's why I'm bothering you. I would be looking at Cardano. I would be looking at Hedera. Like, those are the first two that come to mind that I would be looking over my shoulder. Speed, security, I would be looking over my shoulder with those. I would absolutely be looking over my shoulder with those. Now, because think about this. Okay, you've got XRPL. That's your rails. That's fine. But the truth is that I don't need that. I can swap that out for anything. Who says that you're going to be the only one that these banks are going to work with? Aha. That's the one. That's the one that gets you. So I just wonder, like, I can absolutely swap out certain ones and say, yeah, I can work with this one. I can work with that one. Like I said, the only piece that you're not going to swap is the Oracle. The one that has access to all the data. You're not swapping that one out. Nobody's got it. Pith is barely on the same page. They're not even on the same page as Chainlink. If Chainlink is on this page, they're like back there. If you're doing a Google search, you're clicking next a few times. That's where they are. But if I'm a bank, if I'm a traditional bank, to bring it all back together for you, if I'm a traditional bank, I'm looking at some of these companies and I should be cringing. The whole point about Ripple is that banks should be cringing. You don't have your own answer. Think about that. You don't have your own answer. You all rely on something like Swift. Franklin Templeton created Benji. JP Morgan created JP Coin. That's cute. But you're talking about other networks that are actually bringing other banks to the table. Like I said, if I'm Ripple, if I'm a bank, I'm looking at Ripple. I should be looking at Ripple differently than I'm looking at everybody else, right? I should be afraid, because if they implement what I think the plan is, they're the new Swift Plus. Not just Swift services, but plus, like big plus, right? But at that same time, if I'm Ripple, I'm looking at some of these other technologies that really are not as far away as you think. I could easily, like I said, I look at Ripple and I go, well, Hedera. And before Hedera, I say Cardano. But Cardano has not been cutting the deals that it needs to cut to start playing the Ripple game. They need their own Brad Garlinghouse. And, Chuck E. Cheese ain't it. Sorry to say, he's not the one. You have both, you'll profit. Yeah. That's the right one. And I'm not here to promote any other coins, but I'm saying what I'd be looking at. So I'm sitting back and I'm just saying I can see the waterfall that's happening, right? The chain, that's an even better way of saying the chain that happens. If I'm a bank, I'm supremely worried about anything that has to do with crypto. I'm late. I'm so late. JP Morgan was in this game for a long time, And I look at JP Morgan, I still say they're late. I still say JP Morgan is late. And they were talking out of both sides of their mouth, right? Companies doing one thing, JP Diamond saying something else. I wonder how come nobody's going after him because of that. Just curious. But seriously, I just wonder if any of the banks have anything going on that's really going to catch up quick. I don't think they can catch up quick. I think they can drag out the inevitable. I mean, at some point, you're going to wind up with traditional banks being bought out by cryptos. I truly believe that. I'm not going to say it's obvious, but I can definitely say that's in the realm of possibility. And I'm not talking about some tiny little corner bank. You know what I mean? I'm talking about a healthy bank, like a regional plus. I can definitely see how that could happen. Imagine imagine Coinbase buying a regional bank. Seriously, all jokes aside, imagine Coinbase doing it, Kraken doing it. Imagine any one of the companies that has money. Imagine Ripple doing it. Imagine any one of the crypto companies that have money going out and buying a regional bank. The amount of jaws that would get dropped would be ridiculous. Now, let's be smart. Would I buy a regional bank in like middle America? No. I would buy a regional bank on one of the coasts. I would especially buy one most likely on the East Coast, more densely populated. That's probably what I would do. Easy on-ramping, off-ramping of money, easy, back-end integration, or easier because you have time on your side. You have time on your side where you can do that back-end integration. Yeah, you could buy a regional bank in California. What is it? City something or other. There are regional banks in California you could snatch up. But California isn't as densely populated, on the West Coast as they are on the East Coast. So I'd be like, let me go find something on the East Coast. Buy a regional bank on one of the coasts. And like I said, most likely the East Coast. Find one, buy it. Because you could literally, that's what TD Bank did. They went around and they just started snatching up small banks, regional banks. That's literally what they did. So I would take that same tack. I would just come along and be like, oh, I can buy you. I can buy you. I can buy 10 of you and keep it moving. Yeah. Nobody realizes this, but I brought it up a while ago. There's a company called Fiserv, and they're basically bank in a box. Whatever software you need to build a bank, they are the bank in a box. Not bank as a service, bank in a freaking box. You want to be a bank and not just tap into a bank? Fiserv has all the software. You want to know what they did? They went out and they bought all the competition. And they let the competition just rock on. Just rock on. Yeah, that's fine. So you stop and you think about that and you're kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. Think about that. They bought so when I was consulting Fiserv, we had a bubble map of all the companies that they had purchased and how they intersected each other. Amazeballs. So this sector, they had 5 of the 5 companies in that space. In this one, they had 3 of the 5 companies in this space. And they were all the top. The other 2 didn't matter. It's like, they're still in business? Yeah. Each piece of software comes from one of those companies, and they're all competition. Captain Banana, I heard Canada snagged clearinghouse duty from New York. Any updates? Didn't even research that. I have no idea. No idea. Sounds vaguely familiar, but I have not researched it. Not deeply enough. So when I look at, everything that's going on, I look at all this news that's out there, everybody that's making it easier for people to get into crypto, all roads lead to crypto. All roads lead to crypto. Think about that. The banking system has been pushing really hard for years against crypto. They haven't won yet. They're losing ground. Much like Russia. Yeah. 3 years ago, they had X percentage, and 3 years later, today, now they only have 1% more. After all of that, killing, murdering, they only gain 1% more after all these years. They were supposed to just walk into Ukraine and knock it all out. Not a problem. It's been a massive problem. Nobody's looking at Russia as a superpower. Nobody. I know I don't. Apparently, 4 of the top financial institutions have signed up with Carney. Yeah, are you talking about the new deal with Europe and that kind of, is that what you're really talking about? Because that's what it sounds like. That is huge. That's huge. That's a huge move. Like beyond huge move. Because that's all of the middle powers saying screw the big powers. You only consider Russia a big power because they still have a boatload of freaking nukes. But other than that, they're not a superpower. Monetarily, they're not a superpower. You're going to pay attention to China, which just got dissed. I forgot which company dissed them. I read it earlier today. Didn't even write it down because I was just like, yeah, it makes sense. Was it Panama? I think it was Panama. They released the article earlier. Panama gave their ports not to China, but to Maersk and MSC. Huge. Huge. That's literally saying, yo, China, you don't have that kind of money. Amazeballs. Absolutely amazeballs. If I'm sitting there, I'm thinking you have a big problem. Huge problem. Huge problem. Yo, PH, man, go stand in the corner, man. That's too logical for my tiny little pea brain right now. It's too, because it will. It absolutely will. I'll be listening to the rambling in a little bit. I'm not really sure it's a part of that. However, I wonder what the next step would be. I agree, it's huge. However, if they only process non-tokenized, that's another story. Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. Depends on who they're doing it for and how big the volume is. Seriously. Depends on that volume. Really, what I'm really waiting for, I'm waiting for the rules around tokenized assets. How does that work? If I buy a tokenized asset, do I get something that says it's mine and not just earmarked for me? Because, not your keys, not your crypto. What about that tokenized asset? That's what I'm wondering about. And then what will be the rules around that? And then how is that going to affect companies going IPO? Aha. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. I hope you like what I'm doing. If you do me a favor, smash the likes, tell your friends about this community because it's the only one that cares about your investment knowledge and you growing that education. That's what's up. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And most definitely, thank you for your trust. Everybody have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. for the daily. Have a good one. Bye-bye.